this little demo was not that relevant to record. So the next step is onboarding a reseller. Onboarding a reseller is, like I said before, a thing that we don't do. That sounds stupid. I really don't even like the title of this piece of the information, because we don't onboard resellers. I'd rather prefer calling this, let's say, upgrading a customer or something like that. Because that is what we do. We don't onboard resellers. We onboard a customer and then we upgrade him to a reseller. But okay, let's go with the flow, what we're talking about. So what are we doing? We are looking at an end customer account that we, let's say, move towards a reseller. And this is not something you have to do at the beginning. It could mean that this end customer, like for instance, it's an IT company, and that IT company has been buying services from you for a longer period. And now, because of popular demand of their customers, let's say they're a system integrator. They are working with their customers, integrating software, building software to integrate stuff, doing managed services for their customers, etc., etc. They have been buying Office 365, Microsoft 365 from you. They have been buying backup tools from you, etc., etc. And their customers are asking, where do you get your software? Where do you buy your software? Are you happy with that, etc., etc.? And eventually they come to you and say, hey, we have been an end customer for ages, but we now see that our partners, our customers, want to buy this same software. We can point them at you, but we could also become a reseller, in which case we add to our portfolio not only that we are now serving them as managed services provider and integrator, but also as their software distributor. We would want that. What's in it for you is we bring a lot of customers that have larger user bases, so the amount of money from a subscription perspective is also very interesting for you. So that is absolutely an option. Where this end customer will reside, will he be a reseller L1, will he be a reseller L2 account, depends on where his account at this point is. So if this end customer is a customer from you as a provider, and you upgrade him, he will become an L1 reseller. If he is a customer from an L1 reseller, he will automatically become an L2 reseller account. I cannot easily move him from, let's say, being a end customer at provider level to an L2 account. This would work if I could first transfer that customer. Remember the last module we did in, or the before last module we did in the previous session. I could transfer that customer to an L1 account first, so that he becomes a customer for the L1, and then upgrade him. As I said before, there is an issue. I see your hand, Ana Paula. I'm coming to you in a second. The downside of that is that, first of all, not all services and vendors support this. The second thing is not all connectors support this. So it might almost be an impossibility. That is something to keep in mind. Tell me, Ana Paula.
Quick question. Let's say I have a customer. Okay. This customer is for the provider, but the reseller can also send for this customer. It means that this customer will have two accounts, right? One account with the reseller and another account with the...
Yes.
Yeah. But then let's say there is additional information that is configured for customers that they are unique. So it cannot be repeated. How would that work?
Not. It's that simple.
It will not work. I cannot. So in my case, it means that I cannot have a reseller.
let's use the following example. You are selling as a provider, you're selling Microsoft 365, and then we've got an let's say 365 commercial, and you have a reseller that also sells M365 commercial. For whatever reason, a customer comes to you to buy his enterprise E5 subscription, and that same customer under the same domain name comes to that sub reseller and wants to buy, let's say, a Teams subscription there under the same domain. That already collides.
Yeah, but still, it's possible. It's preference for the customer, and it could be using the same domain name, because it's not an issue, because we are using the same connector, and it's the same account, major account in Microsoft, so it would not be an issue.
Yeah, if it's the same connector, that works. If it's a different connector, it doesn't work.
No, it would be the same connector. I'm just talking about a reseller, a simple reseller here. Anyways, my issue is not that one.
If it's a direct Microsoft partner, we can have the same connector using different credentials.
Yeah,
that will
yeah,
fit.
yeah.
And this is about the same thing. This is about the same thing. So you have to really think about how to set up your hierarchies. You have to really think about where do these customers go.
Yeah, it's just the problem is, let me tell you what's the problem. Our IRS identification, let's say, it's the unique identification for every person or company.
Yeah,
it needs to be unique. So it's set as unique in the system. So
unique
if it's
in the
unique
system.
Yeah, but it's an additional information that cannot be repeated. So I cannot, it's CPF and CNPJ.
Yeah, I got it.
So I cannot have two accounts with the same CNPJ or CPF. It's not possible. I don't allow that. Why? Because I can only generate one invoice for each. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then let's say I have
We're talking about this ones, right? We're talking about this.
Account attributes, yeah.
Yeah, or account attributes or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Have you thought about doing this?
Oh, you have unique per vendor. Okay. So in this case, if I put this as unique per vendor, that was my question. Then it means that I would have two accounts anyways, right? I would have an account for my
and the only thing is that
reseller and an account for my It should say reseller, not vendor, because it's confusing.
I know, but this is the problem.
Yeah, I got it.
Language problem we have, but yeah, it's unique per reseller, and that would solve this issue. And we made it specifically for this, because you can have, of course, let's say,
but
that number, right? The taxation number, Chamber of Commerce number. Of course, if you would say this has to be unique globally is, that's why I asked, is this on the system? If it doesn't need to be unique on the system, so that customers can have different accounts with different resellers, because this reseller is better in Acronis, this reseller is better in Microsoft, make it unique per vendor. That means that even if there is overlap within the same platform, the reseller is billing the customer, and if that invoice is bound to a certain ID that is based on a Chamber of Commerce ID or whatever, it doesn't matter, because it's the same legal entity outside of Cloud Blue, but within. The only difference is that that account cannot have, or that entity cannot have two accounts within the same reseller, and that's exactly what you want.
Yeah, it's globally. I'm checking here. It's globally. I don't know if I can change it, but it's globally.
Yeah. So if that one, this would solve it. I'm not sure if it raises other issues, but that depends on the legal status of that attribute, but you can think about things like this, where you want the allowed value to not be unique on the platform, but you want it to be unique for that specific reseller. And then that same customer can onboard with another reseller and another reseller, as long as they only have one account in each of those resellers.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's go back to onboarding a reseller. Like I said, where that end customer is will be the place where he will become a reseller, because that is, we just convert him. We don't move him somewhere. There is a parameter that changes that makes that customer a reseller at the place where he is. So the parent will stay the same. If he's a customer of the distributor, he will become a level 1 reseller. If he's a customer of an L1 reseller, he will become an L2 reseller. If he's a customer of an L2 reseller, he will become an L3 reseller. That's what happens. So what are the steps to do? Well, there are a couple of phases in this scenario, and some of them you do per account. Others you can do generally. So one time, maybe 2 or 3 times. The first one is prepare the reseller environment. And prepare the reseller environment is not like, hey, here's your login. This is, okay, what do we expect from a reseller? How are we going to treat him financially? What is his credit term? What are their credit terms? Do we give that reseller a huge credit limit so that without paying, he can start selling? Or do we want him to first make a payment on the first of the month and then set top-up options for him, as I explained earlier? What payment methods do we allow for this reseller? If we have on our platform payment method A, B, C, and D, do we give everything to that reseller, or do we only give 2 to that reseller? Or can the reseller bring payment methods that we don't use? And there are other settings. So let's look at that part first. So what are we doing? We're setting the customer class. We're setting credit terms, as I said. And of course, when the reseller is onboarded, that reseller can set his own top-up options. But I would guide him there, because not all resellers understand that when the customer pays them and they should pay at the end of the month, that there is still a limitation that if either their credit limit is completely consumed, or or even goes beyond their credit limit, that even though the customer paid, they are the blocking part when it comes to provisioning, because the system does two checks, especially when there are purchases done from a reseller. The first check is, of course, did the customer pay, or does the customer not need to pay? If that is done, the next step is, does the reseller still have enough credit to provision this? If that is not the part, the customer could have paid, reseller could have cash in hand, but the product will not be provisioned. So make sure they understand that scenario. Solvable by 2 things: by making a top-up option for every single payment that the customer makes. That means that if the customer buys something and pays for that, the reseller pays for that. Or make it a higher amount so that it's not every payment that needs to be done. Credit terms, of course. What happens if my customer does not pay, or my reseller does not pay? And what happens to his customers, right? Thing is that their customer subscriptions keep working, but the functionality of the reseller doesn't. That means that all kinds of order types will not be processed. So make sure you think about those things, and maybe decide that that you don't put a reseller automatically on credit hold, that you have a separate process for that. So your credit terms needs to be set. If you set credit terms, you can set a separate credit limit if you have a common credit term for customers and resellers. If you want to treat them the same, you can do that, but you can set a separate credit limit if you want to. It's not necessary, but you can do that. And then as a reseller, I've shown you where this is. We can enable top-up options. Top-up options to make sure that if we go below a certain threshold, below a certain amount of available credit limit, to make sure that customers can still order from that reseller, you set the top-up options, not just with the payment method, but set that threshold here, set how top-up should happen. Do you want every time just a certain amount, making it easier, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 customers can buy something? Or do you want from the moment you go below your top-up threshold, you want to pay whatever the customer is ordering? That's up to you. And you see, even here is that Boolean that I still haven't got a clue what it is. When we look at payments, as a payment provider has, for working with a payment provider, you have to have an account. We call that a merchant account. It basically allows a business to accept funds in a variety of ways, including electronic payments. And in the platform, there are two possible ways of handling payments. The first one would be that, and that sounds like the most logical one, is that the end customer directly pays to the reseller, meaning that we use the reseller merchant account. Customer pays the reseller at the end of the month gets an invoice from their channel partner, their upstream partner, and they just pay whatever they owe them. There is a difference. That difference is the margin that the reseller makes. Call it profit, call it margin. I don't call it profit because I think that there is more costs to it than just what you have to pay to your channel reseller. You've got salaries to pay as well, but there is a difference. And of course, the channel reseller pays to the provider, etc., etc. There is another way to do this, and this is a configuration thing, because we could also use the provider merchant account. Why would you want to do that? For instance, as an example, I, as a reseller, I have a contract with Visa. So I want, from my perspective, I want every Visa payment to come into my account because I have that account. They can pay directly to me. However, I get requests to also sell through MasterCard. The problem is that the costs of selling through MasterCard with just a few accounts that want to do this is not relevant. So, and now it happens that my provider has a MasterCard account. So we agreed on the MasterCard with my upstream reseller that I'm going to use their account. That means that the end customer now pays. When they buy something from me, they don't pay me. They pay, let's say, my upstream reseller or the provider or something like that. And that means that at the end of the month, when I'm invoiced by my upstream reseller, the upstream reseller for these payments look at, okay, what would be the cost for that for my reseller, and what did I receive for that? So again, there is a difference, right? The cost should stay at the reseller because they don't send the entire bag of money first to the reseller, where the reseller now has to pay the majority back. So in that case, we have the money is in the account of the distributor, and that margin that the reseller makes is now given to that reseller as a credit or as a money transfer directly. And of course, if you have two of those, it's good that we have a computer at the other end, because the computer will now do the trick, right? We have a reseller that needs to make a payment to the distributor for all the Visa card payments, and the distributor has to make a payment to the reseller for all the MasterCard's payments. And the system will generate an invoice that zeroes those two outs, and there is a net amount going either from distributor to reseller, because there were way more payments used by MasterCard than by Visa, or there is a payment going from the reseller to the provider because Visa card was used more. This is configurable based on what I allow the system to do. It looks like we're here. We're not. We're here. And then a couple of sub items there. So this is system settings. You can follow the path here at the top. Payment processing. And then with each payment system, I can decide what merchant account the reseller can use. So this is something where I, let's say, push my resellers into a certain direction. So if I don't want my resellers to use my MasterCard account, and if they want it, they have to set up a contract with MasterCard, meaning that they have to, you set this one. Sorry, you set it as it is now, own only. If I want to force them to go through my account, I specify that it is providers only. In that case, all payments go through my account and I only give the margin back to the reseller. Or I make a choice, or the reseller can make a choice. For Visa, use my own, and for MasterCard, use the providers. And what the fun part is, because there is a cost to using a payment provider, you can charge the customer, your reseller, for that. I can have, let's say, a surcharge in percentages to make sure that my reseller has an additional cost because they want to use my my MasterCard account. Of course, another thing to set up is an order flow. Do you want your resellers to have the same order flow as you have? If you customize your order flows to fit your business needs and your reseller has different business needs, make sure you have a separate order flow for one or for all resellers. I've seen companies that created their for each of their resellers, they created a separate order flow. The advantage of that is you don't have to be careful when they come to you and say, hey, we want to change our order flow or want to change our order flow again. You just go to their order flow, make the changes, and that's it. Whereas if you share an order flow between resellers, you have to really be aware that if I make a change to one, I make a change to all. So you can see which order flow a reseller has. In this case, it's the default order flow. If you create an order flow that you want a reseller to be able to use, you're still the one that changes it, but I have to make that order flow visible to resellers in that case. So this is the whole reseller environment. So we are talking about credit terms. We're talking about customer classes. We're setting up payment methods. What payment methods do we have? Do they have to have their own merchant account? Yes or no? And of course, the last thing was the order flow. When you set that up, you're going to actually start the process of resellers, because all this could have been just for yourself or for, let's say, a specific customer. Now we're going to prepare the reseller package, the reseller plan, the reseller whatever. And that is Well, it looks like there is a 3-step process. The in-house products is a plan that should be there. When you install PLM, that plan is created, but you have to make sure that it's enabled. But the first two we have to manually do. So how would that look? Well, in this case, oh no, let's go back to this page. Sounds weird, right? We're looking at Van Gogh. A layered effect in painting means you're gradually building up light and dark hues. You build up these light or dark colors by layering one paint color on top of the other. The next layer can only be applied once the previous layer is dry enough to ensure that it will not dissolve. And that's exactly what we're doing, because we are building 3 objects, and I can only start at the top and then work my way down. The first thing to do is we have to create what we call a branding template. And what is a branding template? A branding template is a template that allows me to create a brand. That sounds like a pretty much open door. But what is a brand? A brand is a set of interface settings applied to Cloud WooCommerce in order to white label it. So if I want to white label my control panel, there are a couple of prerequisites. And the first one is that you have a dedicated domain. And based on top, that will be your brand, that domain. You will create a brand on top of that. And from that moment that it's a brand, you can white label it with colors, with logos, with look and feel. If you don't have that domain, you're always, let's say, part of the brand of the domain or of the reseller above you or the distributor above you, because you're using that URL. If you use that URL, you will see that set of colors and look and feel and logos. So the brand is mandated by the URL. So where do I create this? Well, the branding template is an operations part. So that is where we start. We start in service templates in operations. We see billing, so we're in operations. Let me build the first one, because there are a couple of things that I really want to demonstrate here with the power of this. I'm going to close all my stuff that is upstream. So
I'm
the only
still
thing
seeing this. I'm still
Yeah, I
seeing
know.
the slides.
I know,
Oh, okay.
I know. I was closing a lot of tabs. So here I am, and I'm in my own environment in this case. In this case, it's a brand, right? I am on service templates, and I'm going to add a new one. And I'm going to call this AMX branding template 2. And maybe I shouldn't make typos. I can put in a description if I want to. The rest I leave default. I click next, and I'm going to put in things. And actually what I need is I need these 4. If I want this reseller automatically to have the capacity to create in-house products, I can also add the rest of those resources, but I want to make a separation between those two. So I need a branding access point. I need client accounts. I need DNS hosting, and I need reseller accounts. If I don't have a reseller accounts resource, I am, let's say, at the end of my tree. That means that I cannot create sub resellers anymore. That means I can only have customers. And I think that is a very powerful thing if you want to say, okay, hey, you are becoming my reseller, but I don't want you to be, let's say, a distributor for your sub resellers. I am okay with you onboarding, but you can only have customers. It all has to do with this resource. If I don't have that resource, I cannot create sub resellers. Of course, do we want to limit this? Depends. I always say, don't do it. I don't need it. And I've got a reseller template. There it is, AMX branding template 2. That's the first thing, the branding template. This gives me the right to have customers. This gives me the right to have resellers in this case. And this gives me the right to have a branded login page. Let's call it that, a branded login page. And after that, of course, a branded control panel. Let's go back to my slides quickly. The next step to do is, and I'm going back to that slide with the 3 terms in that. That's easier than going through the slides because the slides just show an existing object. I want to show you the process of building it. So we have created the branding template. So now I need to create what we call a reseller template. A reseller template is the template that actually switches you from customer to reseller. It does other things too, but that is one of the key things that it does. We call it the reseller template. That one is created in billing. That means if I go to service plans, the tab service templates, there is my AMX branding template too, and I'm going to create a new reseller template. That means that I need to use the right choice here. And in this case, I need the reseller management service. So this is the service that switches this account from being a customer to being a reseller. And I'm adding stuff, of course. This is, of course, AMX reseller template 2. In this case, since we don't have automatic versioning, I'm just calling it version 1. It needs to be active. And here we assign which branding template to use. So you can say, okay, we've got a branding template with reseller accounts, and we've got a branding template without reseller accounts. And for these customers, we give them with reseller, so they will be able to onboard sub resellers themselves, for instance, because they have operating units that they want to service, and these resellers should not be able to add reseller accounts. I'm going to use branding template number 2. And I'm going to hand a order flow. Here you see that there are 12 that I have access to. I'm not sure. I'm going to just use copy of the default order flow. If I have set up fraud filtering, I can copy that as well, meaning that everything I have, my reseller will automatically also have. They can disable it, they can enable it, but they don't have to reinvent that wheel. They have the wheel. I'm giving it to them. It's that round thingy that rolls. And I can save this, or I can specify that for this customer, for this reseller, their default customer class, meaning that if somebody onboards standard through the public marketplace, they will be placed in the default customer class for that reseller. My customer classes are also inherited, so I can do a demo too if I want to. Save. So now we have AMX reseller template 2. If I go in there, there are a couple of tabs that are interesting. And this is the one. This is one. Add delegated plans. Through this reseller plan, next to using it to, let's say, convert a customer into a reseller, I can also delegate plans that I have to them. So I can go in here and say, okay, I'm going to delegate the first 5 plans. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Add selected items. I could have also selected 160 if I want to. If I want this reseller to have my entire portfolio, I can do that. I can also, if I've taken the time to create sales roles, if I have taken time to create marketing roles, etc., etc., and this is a template that will create my operating units, those operating units don't need to reinvent that wheel either. I can just attach those roles to this template, which means that the users from my sub reseller can now just select or it can be assigned the roles that I created. If I, for whatever reason, want my reseller to specifically not be able to assign a certain privilege, I can detach that privilege, meaning that my reseller's roles will be named the same, they will be exactly the same, but this privilege will not be visible from on that side, which means that none of their users can do this. So that's that. The rest is, I'm coming back to that later. So now we created our reseller service plan. Reseller service template. The next thing to do is create a reseller service plan. And this is the normal procedure for old-fashioned plans. It's a generic service plan. I click next, and I'm going to call this AMX Reseller Plan 2. Based on the reseller service template, this one, not the branding template, but the reseller template. And let's copy the descriptions, make it published, and the rest I leave fairly similar. The only thing I do is I set it to a subscription period, a year, 10 years, whatever you want to do. This is also where you can charge for being a reseller on this. I can say, okay, for every month for being a reseller, you pay me 100, in this case, euros, if you want to. And that's about it. So I want to finish this. So we have a plan called AMX Reseller Plan 2. It's on the last page. Here we have it, AMX Reseller Plan 2. I have created a couple of customers, Jacob Reed and Sons here. Let's make this Jacob Reed a reseller. I've got a couple of resellers here. So I'm going to use Jacob Reed. I'm going to place an order for my AMX Reseller Plan 2. Of course, in that case, for a year. Clicking next. I'm clicking, I don't need a PO number, and I'm placing this order. So if we refresh, provisioning is in progress, and it's completed. So if I go to my customers, my Jacob Reed and Sons is not here anymore. It's now here. And it shows as not initialized. It shows as not initialized because now my reseller needs to make a couple of choices, or in this case, one choice. I'm going to show you how multiple choices work as well and what needs to be different. So I discussed this, right? I delegated service plans through this. Here's my delegated plans scenario. On the delegated plans tab, you will see those. What can a reseller do when he has delegated plans? Well, you cannot modify the structure. The plan is as is. That means the billing terms, billing settings, service terms are all clear. The structure is, let's say, set. What can you change? Well, I can redefine prices, which is necessary because I want to make a profit. I can change the descriptions, and I can change notification schedules. Like if my subscription, if my let's say upstream reseller, my distributor, sends out notifications 30 days in advance, 10 days in advance, and that's it. I can define that I want to send out 15 days in advance, 5 days in advance, and I want to also send something on the last day. Descriptions, because the corporate language that my distributor uses to talk to their customers is different than the language we use, right? We all have I always call it our own corporate language, our branded language. How do we talk to our customers? Some are more official, others are more, let's say, relaxed in their terminology. So all those things can be changed. So how did this stack up? I already told you that we have got the branding template, we've got a reseller template, and these two are two different objects, but I call that reseller branding template using the reseller service template. The branding service template is not embedded, but it's called when provisioning happens. Of course, the reseller's delegated plans are part of the service template as well. And then we layer on top of that, we layer the service plan. There we go. I'm going to skip the next slide for a second. And this one as well. So now we are at the onboarding stages. I sold that plan to a reseller, or I subscribed the reseller to the reseller service plan. That is where my reseller shows as not initialized. Okay, how do you initialize? You can do it for your sub reseller, or you can help your reseller doing it together. Because when I log in the first time, I get a question. And there is a setup wizard. In this case, it shows only as a single step. And if you read the yellow bars, you see what is happening in this. The first one, the currency can be selected only in this step. It will not be possible to change the currency later. That means that if I make an error here, I have to cancel the account and start over again. So this is why it's important that you realize this. We are working towards a multi-currency, but that still means that we have a primary currency per reseller. So this step will probably stay in. So what is the primary currency for this one? I buy from the provider in euros, so I can do something like USD. I'm selling in US dollars. Save and continue. At this point, I'm brought to the actual control panel of my reseller. If I now go back here and I refresh the page, this one will show as active. Well, this is not a big thing, right? This is not a huge wizard. Let me do the same with Maxitech. I prepared that one already. If I go in here, you will see that there is a 5-step or 6-step setup wizard. What's the difference between those two? The difference between those two is a very small one, and it's not obvious, and it's certainly not mentioned in any of our documentations. So this is where you have to pay real good attention. Let me show you the difference between the two service templates, reseller templates that we have. I've got a service parameter here. This is the one that I subscribed. If I look at subscriptions, you see that Maxitech is subscribed to this one. And if I go to my AMX reseller template 2 and I go to service parameters, it's blank. And here you see that for subscriptions, the Jacob Reed and Sons has subscribed to this one. So what it's all about is the fact that using this new parameter that I'm going to add here, I am giving this reseller his brand ID during the order flow. So this is, let's call it brand ID, give it a name. So this is just what it says in front of the text box that you will receive there. So this is your brand domain. And the value type is a domain name. I want to ask this on order placement. That's the first thing, because I want this during that order process to happen, not later. Whether you want it required depends on you. Because if you make it required, it simply means that you can only have branded resellers. If they're operating units, you might not want that. So I personally leave this checkbox open. It's not a required thing, but if you know that this is going to be a branded reseller, I'm going to fill it out. So I'm going to leave it like this. I'm going to save it. And now I'm going to place, I only change the template. I'm going to place an order. I'm not going to synchronize anything. I'm going to make sure that the independent planners will subscribe to that same plan that I made that tech company subscribe to, namely AMX Reseller Plan 2. Again, for a year. There are parameters there. Here's my brand domain. This is that field that I just made sure was added. This is not an attribute like the PO number. This is part of specifically this procedure. If you buy this service plan, you're pointed at this service template, and this service template wants to ask a brand domain for this one. So let's say this is independent.org, something like that. Let's make this a T. Independent.org, next. And I'm placing the order. Of course, we get the same story, provisioning in progress, provisioning in progress, loyalty bonus rating completed. My customer is gone. My reseller, there it is, the independent planners, is there as not initialized. If I now log into this one, hey, this is strange. That is weird.
No, it's not. I got the same here. It's just save and continue.
Oh, no. That is weird.
Yeah? I got the same. No, you don't have it in domain. I mean, I see.
It looks like the domain was not stored. Let's go through this one and let's try it again in a second. Let me log into this one. Let's first go through the wizard so we know it. The first step is the same. It's always select your currency. I'm taking anything. I'm not sure what I'm saying now. The domain setup, since you see only one yellow bar, right? So how do I want to do this? I gave a domain in here, and I'm not, how do I want to do it? Do I want to do cp.domain.whatever, or do I want domain.whatever/cp? This is a choice that I now have. Of course, this afterwards comes the DNS records, etc., that we have to create. We delegated plans to them. Which ones do we want active? By default, everything is there. I delegated, as you see, 7 plans here. If I don't want this one, let's deactivate it, meaning that I will sell 6 of the 7 plans that were handed to me. I can set pricing. These are the prices that are there. These are my wholesale prices. And guess what? I can, if I want to make a profit, how much profit do I want to make? I can do a 10% profit if I want to. I could also go in and change the individual prices. The same thing for resources. In this case, I want to make, again, a 10% profit on everything that I sell. You see, there's a lot there. Save and continue. And do I told this one to be mybranddomain.com. So do I want cp.mybranddomain.com or do I want panel or whatever? It's up to us. And I can save and continue. And now I have a provisioned setup. Oh, I know. Let me change that. I want to make one more change. I think I know what I did wrong. Let me go in here. Let me go to the service parameters. Let's go in here. Edit. Yeah, I was afraid that would happen. Can I still remove it? Yeah. Let's do this. Domain ID. It's a domain name. There we go. This means I have to quickly create a new customer. I thought I created enough. This is reseller for demo. Street 1. City. US. New York. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One. Next. Skip all of this. Call him reseller AMX2. Generate a password. Finish. So here we have a new customer account. And place an order on that same item now with a changed thing. Reseller plan. 1 year. Next. My brand name is resellerdomain.com. Next. Place order. Refresh this. There we go. We've got a reseller, not initialized. Now we have it. Okay, so there is one more mandatory setting. I didn't realize that one. Let me go to my service template and explain to you what I changed. This one. The parameter has to be called domain ID. In that case, it will show that it's a domain for a brand, and then it works. And we have a setup wizard of 6 steps where we can go through to make it work. So the key thing, and I think it has been documented too little, but you have a service parameter here that needs to be domain ID, and the value type is domain name. How you call him doesn't really matter. This is just what it shows in the UI. Whether or not you want to make it mandatory or not is up to you, as long as it is asked on order placement. So that's how you create your brand. For in-house, and let me go quickly there. The first error, when I wanted to create that in-house product, the first error that I got, remember where it says you don't have, in your subscription, you have resource, and then there was a resource number. That has to do with the fact that I did not have a subscription to the in-house service plan initially. After I did it, it takes some time, and then I could place I could create my my in-house products, my in-house how do you call it? My in-house product line, would be automatically generated. This thing is typical if you have PLM. So this is not dependent on 20.5 or 21. It is PLM based. If you don't have PLM, this whole thing is not necessary. However, if you don't have PLM right now, you miss a lot of other things as well. So we have our setup wizard. We went through that. So reseller maintenance, what can you do? Well, when you make changes or Microsoft makes changes, you might need to push those changes out to your resellers. And just like a normal subscription, a reseller subscription is also not, let's say, updating automatically. That means that if you want to push out terms and conditions, if you want to push out new resource rates in service plans, you have to make sure that you synchronize a reseller. And there are two ways of doing that. I can synchronize a particular reseller with or without resellers. I do that by going, and I think I'm going to do that a little bit different today in the demonstration. I'm going one level up. So that means I'm going to log into a different platform quickly. I'm going to the SA demo set, and I'm going to log in as my Demo Europe, because that is where my account would be. And I go to the classic panel. To billing. And in billing, if I go to resellers, oh, this is a wrong one. This is AD. Sorry, this is not the one that I thought. This is company AD. Where is Europe? Let's go to billing. That's easier. That's different. That's sorted in a different way. There we have it. I want to go into this one, and I want to go to the classic panel there. And if I go to billing, and I go to my resellers, there is an Erik Dennekamp somewhere down at the bottom. You also see the ones that I just created, right? You see that their vendor is Erik Dennekamp. You see that 4 of them are not activated, but I want to have this one first. So I can go to the bottom, and there are 2 buttons here. The first one is synchronize this reseller and sub resellers. That means that not only will my account be synchronized, but all those 4, 5, 6 resellers, I don't know how many I have now, will also be synchronized. What will we synchronize? Well, anything that I check. Be aware that you don't check everything, because you can break things for your reseller. If I say update plan fees and update resource prices, I will overwrite the profitable ones that the reseller set. So you might not want to do that. Update the order flow. If I created a new order flow, boom, let's give him a new order flow. Or I made changes to the order flow that I delegated to him. Reseller roles, privileges. If I made changes in that reseller template where I added new roles, I can delegate that. Let's do that quickly. Let's go to settings. Let's go to security. Here we are. And let's add a new role. And put in some privileges. Let's take the first 25. Let's do something silly. If I now go to my reseller again, Erik, where's Erik? All the way down here. Erik is subscribed to the L2 reseller plan, and the L2 reseller plan, there it is based on the L2 reseller BSS template EU resources. If I go in here and I attach a new role, the demo role that I just created, I can go all the way back to Eric, go to his account, and I can synchronize this reseller where I only update the roles and privileges. Synchronize. I now go back to Eric's account, and we are still in billing. I go to system settings. There is the demo role with, if I look at the privileges, there are 24. Why 24 and not 25? Let me show you that. Settings, security. The first, let me go to roles and add a new role and say, put in something here. There is a privilege that should not go to my account because it's what is it called? It is restricted to one of my other upstream resellers. I don't know which one it is, but let me take settings, security again, roles, privileges. There are 25 in total. What I can now do is I can go to that same service template again. L2 EU resources, that's the one. You see that I have less tabs. So there is a privilege that I don't have that prevents me from breaking things. That's why I don't see all the items. I see the resource mappings, I see service parameters, I see which plans are used to use this template. I see subscriptions, I don't see subscriptions, I only see the tab, and I see some resources. But for the rest, I don't see those kind of things. So be aware that since I miss that privilege, I don't see all the information. But you see that a sync works. If I would log into one of my active resellers and go to Classic Panel there, you will see that that role in billing has not been delegated because I only synchronized the reseller itself, not the sub resellers. Going back to Eric again. Oh, wait, not here. Or am I? Am I here? Security, big wheel. I've got too many windows open here. I need to go here. This is the one. Let me go to resellers and find Eric again. If I do the same thing now with sub resellers, I hope you can realize that that role will appear at that level. So this is an individual tree that I can do. I see a question here. Customize UIs for reseller subscriptions are not available in UX1. Resellers don't have a customer control panel anymore. Nope. True.
And can I reverse a customer that I converted to reseller to a regular customer?
I haven't done that yet. If I cancel the reseller subscription, they will still be there under reseller. So
yes,
I don't have I have the feeling that the conversion from it's an attribute. It's either a type R or a type C in the database. So I don't think that there is an easy way back. I'm not 100% sure if it can be done through, because first thing you have to do is cancel the subscription. And then
Yes.
you have to change that attribute. And I have a feeling that that attribute is only changeable at database level.
Fun. Okay.
I don't know if there might be an API method for that, but I've never heard of somebody going back from being a reseller to a customer. So that might
Yeah,
be the reason why we never
okay.
implemented it.
Yeah, but anyways, let's say I'm a reseller and I have like several subscriptions, and these subscriptions have customized UIs. So I cannot use my customized UIs. So I cannot
What do you
purchase
mean with custom? What do you mean with
APS,
customized UIs?
APS UIs, APS UIs.
Anything that is APS based will show in UX1.
No. May I share my screen?
No. Oh, you mean
No.
as from a customer perspective? From a customer perspective.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. No. That's the thing. Yeah. That's a big thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, because even connector stuff are not showing
No, you don't
in
see your
UX.
own subscriptions. You mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
even
True.
from the connector, I see nothing. That's an
Yeah.
issue, because if anything I need to, for instance,
Yeah.
let me tell you something really simple. I have my Microsoft subscriptions, right? In
Yeah.
order to enable the subscription, I need to click it the DEM, in the DEM form thing that you have
Yeah.
in UX1 in CCP. If I
Yeah.
don't have CCP to click there, I will not be able to enable
No.
any Microsoft
No.
subscription for my reseller.
I would report that as a PFR or maybe even as a bug through your TAM, because this is indeed something that I think has been overlooked.
You know what I mean? If my
Yeah.
reseller wants to use my, my Microsoft subscriptions, he can't.
Yeah, true. Absolutely. Make sure it's
That's
reported as a
horrible.
bug or as a PFR, because that is an issue that I think that has not been overseen.
Yeah, I'll talk to Stuart. Not here. Okay, I'll talk
Yeah.
to Stuart when he's back. I think it's better.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuart can help. And if he doesn't understand what you mean, let him contact me so I can explain it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. We've got our settings there. So we can pull in the synchronization, or we can, and that's a more drastic thing. Let's reset the search. Let's go for the last page. No, not the last page. I'm in the wrong spot. Let me go here to service plans. I can also push out those changes here, synchronize all resellers or synchronize the direct resellers. Basically, this button that I'm hovering over now, synchronize direct resellers, means that we are pushing to the next level. And if they want to make the changes to their next level, they can do that. Or I can synchronize all resellers, which is the entire tree down here that has this service plan enabled. So that's up to you. Again, be careful what you check and what you don't check, because you can break things or reset pricing that your resellers don't realize. At least if you're going to synchronize, make sure that you mention it to your resellers, because they have to verify if everything is still okay. We can sync this reseller and sub, synchronize this reseller only, or synchronize all. So this is from within the within the reseller account. This is from within the reseller plan. Make sure you don't check everything. That's what we want to say here. And that is where we were at the end. And this is the end of my story. What questions do you have so far?
Okay, regarding the prices setting.
Yeah.
I am able to set a different price for as a reseller. I can set the price as much or as little as I please, right?
Yeah.
So how does that work? I don't know if I missed this part, because I was actually trying to do what you were doing regarding the create the subscription and the plan and whatever for creating reseller. It's the reason why I effed up
The thing is
my
that,
test customer, but anyways.
the thing is that if you update the plan fees, it will override the, let's say, end customer pricing for the reseller. And if you update, this is a little bit of a tricky scenario. If you set manual wholesale prices, I would not touch this automatically. I would work with my reseller to do this. If you set the wholesale prices using a discount, you can safely do that, but you have to tell your reseller that you are going to do this, because it will still override their prices, but they can up it using that reseller, using that setup wizard. They can go through this again, and let's say they want to, let's move forward. This button is all the way at the bottom. I'm not sure why it's there. And they can basically redo this trick where they up their prices with the percentage that they want to use.
Okay,
if they have custom pricing, custom pricing that they set manually, they have to go back in and do that. So don't.
But they do that in plans, right? They do that in service plans. The same way I do.
Yeah, and then they have
there. The resource
but they have the same thing with resource pricing. So be very careful when you do this, that you warn your reseller, and that they might have to basically, after you've pressed synchronize and you added your prices, because you might want to have to do that because of Microsoft raising their prices for you. That means that you have to raise your price for your reseller. They have to go in and set the prices to their desired level again.
I don't have this setup wizard here in my version. This is version 21, right?
No, it has been there since version 5.
Oh, it's in the reseller panel. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me change my.
Yeah, the reseller has the setup wizard where they can go through this.
Mod expert. Okay. Billing. Oh yeah, assistente de configuração. Found it. It's in English, but still.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
And that reseller wizard is always there. Or sorry, that setup wizard. As a reseller, it's always there. So
yeah,
you can go in there, you can play around with it. Refresh.
I got it. No problem.
Let's go in here. 5 steps. There we go. And do that. Let me verify something. I think the Happy Bear.
The Happy Bear. Nice name.
There's a 1-step wizard, so let me select anything here.
Yes, I did that too.
And we have in billing.
And you have to do. Well, me, I had to accept something here in the billing in order for it to work.
The problem is that since there is no domain, there is no brand, I cannot go through that wizard with the prices. So even if you, for an unbranded wizard, you have to almost give them a domain. But that's all there is to it.
Oh, wait, hold on. To have separate prices, I need to have a different domain?
You have to have a brand. Otherwise, the wizard is always 1 step. And the setup wizard you get to see here is the setup wizard you have
but
you initialize it.
Yeah, but I can put the brand in the same URL, sorry, as the provider, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but there has to be a domain in there. Otherwise, you don't get the 6 steps wizard.
Oh, got it. So I need to create a brand and say, I don't know, reseller 1 dot Pinel Cloud, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
If you want that. The alternative would be that you have to go through every single service plan or go through the price manager that we have in here. This would be, for me, another reason to use Price Manager as my source of pricing instead of that percentage on top of it, because it allows me to basically redo whatever you messed up because you by accident synchronized something. I just import my new prices again using the Price Manager, and it will reset the price to what I originally had set, at least that. So that was the story for, well, at least for today. What more questions do you have?
Or so far, I think for me that's all for
Okay.
now.
For
if
the
I have
rest,
something else, I'll just do.
yeah, you ping me.
Yeah.
What more questions do you have? Others? If not, give me a thumbs up. All right, I see thumbs up. Perfect. In that case, let me thank you for being here. You have my email address. If you have questions after this training, of course, you can contact me and be aware that I'm in a different time zone. So if you are sending this email in your afternoon, I might not see it until my morning. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking your time to listen to me, and good luck with everything we discussed.
Thank you. Thank
guys.
you, Eric.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a
Bye.
nice and see you when I see you, right?
Absolutely.
Right
Absolutely.
now it's
Bye.
absolutely see you when I see you. Bye.
Bye bye.